So on book club this week, I've got Katie Taylor. Now, motivated by her own debilitating experience of perimenopause and years of misdiagnosis, Katie Taylor founded her multi-award-winning platform, the Latte Lounge, to provide support for all women's perimenopause, menopause, health and well-being needs. She's the host and founder of the Midlife and Menopause Uncovered podcast. And now she is the author of Midlife Matters. Katie, thank you for joining me on Thursday Book Club.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's wonderful that we are raising awareness on menopause, but there are a lot of books out there. So what makes Midlife Matters different? What inspired you to, because it's not easy writing a book, and I know it's a labour of love and it's taken hours and weeks and months putting this together. So what makes it different?
Well, this is very much not a menopause book. This book is 10 years of Latte Lounge work all put into one place. I, as you said, now 9 years ago, I had my light bulb moment. So if we rewind, I'm 55 now, but when I was 43, I went through, as you said at the beginning, 4 years of very debilitating perimenopause symptoms. Now, in those days, no one was talking about it, and I was misdiagnosed by half a dozen different doctors and sent to every single specialist under the sun, and kept getting told I was suffering with depression or it was all in my head, and sent off with antidepressants and pretty bad, possibly well-meaning advice, lose weight, get fit type conversation.
The usual stuff, yeah.
Yeah, give up your job. So I set up the Latte Lounge once I got the right diagnosis. My father, who was at that book launch, I think you met him, is a retired breast cancer professor, but he was the one that said, although you're 47, these are actually hormonal symptoms, I'm sure of it. Packed me off to see a menopause specialist who diagnosed me correctly, and I started on HRT, which is right for me. And that was my light bulb moment, which when I came home and realized I wasn't going mad and I wasn't a hypochondriac and there was a reason for all these seemingly unrelated symptoms, I turned to Facebook to see if anyone was talking about this, and no one was. So I set up the Facebook group originally just to share my experiences, and I realized very, very quickly, in 24 hours I had 1,000 member requests, and I knew, okay, this is crazy. I'm not alone. Something ain't right here. And so I built the Latte Lounge website, out of my own pocket. It's all been voluntary the whole time. I brought together a load of experts to support the women properly in this group so that they were getting evidence-based information, and I could signpost them to either very reputable people or resources or blogs on my own website. And over the years, I've just connected with some absolutely brilliant experts from all over the world. I'm very fortunate. I've grown up in a medical family where all my uncles are medical professors and my cousins are all doctors. So we have this, we're very lucky to have this network. And I wanted to extend that sort of luxury to the women in my group. So to cut a long story short, when it came to the book, what I realized was that although women were coming to the group to talk about perimenopause and menopause, they were also coming with all of midlife issues. So perhaps relationships breaking down, children having mental health problems, aging parents, how do I lose weight? Why am I hair thinning? Literally everything. And it was actually, there was a lady in my Facebook group who turned out to be my now literary agent, who said, look, have you ever thought about writing a book? Because all of this needs to be written down. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, I love writing. I wouldn't even know where to start. That is a huge task. And we went off and met in a little coffee shop near me, and we sort of plotted it out. And she sort of said, all right, well, let's put together this proposal, which took us a couple of months. And I didn't think I'd hear from her again. She said she'd go off and, send it off to publishers. And then, sort of lo and behold, she came back and said Dawn and Kindersley, who are part of Penguin Random House, loved the concept and would I do it? And I was like, oh, my God.
Getting real.
It's real. So it was really exciting. It came in a very organic way. I wasn't looking to do this. I work more than full time and I have 4 kids and I've just got a very busy life. So, um, but having now done it, I am so happy I have, because the Facebook group can't go on forever. It's very hard to keep these online businesses going. Every penny that comes in goes straight out. And so whatever happens, I now know I've got this rich resource in this book. And although it starts with menopause, because that was my journey, where my journey began, it goes through absolutely everything. So every health issue is split into 4 sections. So the first is health, and that covers all sorts of health. So menopause, but also breast health, heart health, bone health, brain health,
Gut health.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And then the wellbeing section is all around sort of nutrition and fitness and self-care and stress reduction and, even beauty and style and that kind of thing. And then we have a whole section on sort of relationships. And I don't just mean partners, but we talk about divorce, we talk about single life and dating. We talk about aging parents and how to care for them.
That's a huge part.
Which a lot of people don't think about, but we are, that sandwich generation. We've got a lot of responsibilities. And then that last section is on work and life, but work and finances, because very few people talk about finances.
That's so true.
And losing confidence and going back to work or reinventing yourself. So I've been talking a lot, and I don't want to just throw it all at you, but I sort of see it as a midlife Bible. And I hope it will.
That's the way it reads. I have to say, it's like a manual, a reference book that you can dip in and out of, and it's really easily planned. I like the way you can find things very easily. There's small snippets that you can take out, or larger sections that you can go to, or proper references that you can find if you want to dig a little bit deeper. And also, I think that I can feel very feel I can trust it, because tell me about some of the contributors that you've got involved in this. And you did make me laugh, because when you were saying that your editor had said you've got X thousand words, right? So you're like, okay, I've got X thousand, and then I'm going to get all these contributors, and then you find that you've tripled or quadrupled your book count.
You can probably tell by the way I just blurted all that out to you in 3 seconds. I have a real problem with editing, so I was very grateful for an editor. But she said the book was going to be 80,000 words, but the way it works is I'm the narrator, so I introduce each section and sort of talk a bit about my own experience, because I'm quite well placed as a mum of 4 kids with aging parents and going through menopause to actually, I think I've pretty much gone through most of that book, although I'm blessed not to have gone through divorce. But there's a section on grief, which I have experienced. So, but these experts were all so good, and I just couldn't nail it down. She said 2,000 words, 20 experts, and I went, all I heard was 45 experts. So I ended up with way over my word count, and the editors were amazing and they were brutal in a good way. They sort of cut it all down. But we've got people like Professor Guy Leschziner. He is a senior neurologist and sleep expert, and I got in touch with him because my cousin, Professor Paul Greengrass, is a sleep expert for children, and Guy is for adults. And when I was speaking to him, I just was sort of blown away with his knowledge, not just about sleep and brain health in menopause, but just for all adults, for men as well. And he's written his own books, and he's just an incredible man. And so the sleep advice in there, and also there's a bit about finding the difference between dementia, what's brain fog, what's dementia. This is really good advice, and because I know and trust and love him, that what he's written you can know and trust and love. And that's the same right the way through this book. Professor Nick Panay, who is the president of the International Menopause Society, has written the menopause section. you know you can trust him. The man that took over the professor that took over my father's breast cancer clinic at UCH has written the breast cancer section. These are senior consultants. And as I said, I have been fortunate enough to grow up with this network for myself and my family, and I wanted to extend that in a similar way within this book.
And you have tapped into that network really well. And as I say, I feel like there's a certain degree of authenticity and good research and trustworthiness as well. Just want to touch back on what you mentioned about sleep. Now, this is Midlife Matters aimed at women, really, but some of those sections are equally as important to men who might be influenced by their women who are reading those things, because sleep, for example, is fundamental to our brain cognition and our gut health and our well-being and our stress levels and so much. So, hopefully your book is reaching a far wider audience than you ever first intended to write it for.
Well, that's right. I really would love the men to read it, not just so they understand what's going on with our hormones, but for them, there's a whole section on literally things like the divorce process or sex and relationships, what understanding why your partner might have low libido, or understanding, why, for example, your partner is beyond stress because she's juggling, all the caring duties she's got. And even the financial and work pressures as well. I think I would love men to read this. I think it would be an eye-opener as much for them as it is for women. And I really hope everyone reads it. Younger girls as well, so they know what's potentially
that's
coming.
really true. What is coming? I do like that last section because nobody, this is so annoying to me. Why are we not taught in schools? Maybe only in sixth form if people go on to further education. Why are we not taught basic finances and how to look after a bank account and how to start preparing for pension arrangements when we're young? And we should be doing that. It should be part of our school curriculum at some stage. I just don't understand why it's not. So I was really glad to see that part in there. And it's never too late to take a hold of your finances and make sure that you understand, and there's transparency if you have a partner as well. That sort of thing is really important as we go from midlife into later life. Is there power of attorney? Do you have a will together? Do you know where the accounts are, where the passwords are? All of those things are so important.
Yeah, and I think one of my only regret with the book is because I went way over my word count in the health section, is that I honestly ran out of word count for that last section, and there was a whole chapter in my head just about what you were talking to. So we were talking about wills and power of attorney, and we had about another 20,000 words. And I said to them, that almost needs to be like a, maybe, can we just slot it in somewhere? Because these are things people don't talk about or think about. And the lady who wrote the finance section, Eileen Adamson, the thing I love about what the way the book is formatted, I've asked the questions I think you guys listening would want to know. So she literally tells you what useful resources there are, from what apps to use to how to budget, and really simple. The idea is when you open the book, your answers are there, or if they're not there, there's a resource mentioned either in that chapter or in the back.
Absolutely. Even down to things like NHS guidelines. People should know that you're supposed to have a health check every 5 years from the ages of 40 to 74. When are you supposed to have cervical smears? When are you supposed to have breast checks as well? And I like that it's in there and in nice small little boxes, because I'm quite visual. I don't like loads and loads of words. I like pictures and I like boxes and tick boxes.
And it's funny because Jordan, the wonderful designer of the book, that's exactly what I said to her. I said, I get overwhelmed when if I open a book and it's just words, I close it. So I said, I want lots of white space, lots of really kind of gentle, calming, positive colours, and just sort of pull out boxes with the key take-home messages, so that, look, you won't, whoever's reading this book, I think you'll dip in and out of it in the bits you need then. Yes. And hopefully you won't need the other bits, but some there's something for everyone in there, depending on where you are in your life. Yeah, and that was important to me, that it was just not too overwhelmingly heavy, word heavy.
Yeah, and even just talking about friendships, how they change, and it's never too late to make new friends at each iteration of yourself. You go through so many different parts of yourself through your 20s and 30s and parenthood and possibly or divorce or empty nesting and moving home. There is so many things that are not off the table. You should always look positively and look for new friends. Big fan of Mel Robbins' Let Them theory. I'm just
Yeah.
spouting it all the time at the moment. Um, yeah, I loved your book because it is dippable. It's a nice dippable little handbook. Where is it available now?
I mean, it's available everywhere in, Waterstones, in Smiths, obviously on Amazon, and in Ireland, and in the States, it's out soon. So yeah, pretty much everywhere and anywhere where you shop, you should find it. And if you obviously look at the Latte Lounge socials, it's all mentioned there.
Yeah, if people
Um,
want to find the latte, see, I always say it with more of an American accent, don't I? Latte Lounge.
Latte.
If they want to find your platform, what's the website for that?
So the website's lattelounge.co.uk, and Instagram is at lounge the latte, and the Facebook group is the Latte Lounge. So yeah,
Your Facebook your Facebook group is huge, isn't it? But as you say, any kind of Facebook group where you're the admin or you're moderating or you're looking after comments, it becomes a behemoth, doesn't it? It's so big to control.
it's exhausting, and the way we control it. I've got a wonderful Facebook group manager, Tracy. It's ridiculous to a point where it's not sustainable, because we don't just let anyone post anything. We're very evidence based. I won't approve, and Tracy won't approve any post unless we have grabbed a reply that is going to genuinely help them first. We let other women talk, but and we're also very careful. We don't let people post things about quackery and all this sort of. There can be a lot of snake charmers out there, so we're very careful. But yes, it is quite a full on job.
Well, look, congratulations. Midlife Matters, the handbook, if you like. Your subtitle is Feel Empowered and Confident Every Step of the Way. And I think you definitely can. Looking at this, whatever you need is in there, whether it's about mental health, your brain fog, pelvic floors, we didn't even mention that,
Yes,
heart
yes.
health, and all kinds of things about your health or your well-being or your mental awareness, your mental state, and also life just in midlife is complicated and stretched and a lot sometimes, isn't it, when we're just stretched from adult kids right through to aging parents who either don't want our help, do want our help, or are really rather ungrateful sometimes when we give it. It can be quite hard. But Katie, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been really lovely to talk to you.
Well, thank you for having me on, Michelle.